Right, good evening everybody and welcome to tonight's Governance Committee. I'm Councillor Tim Lunnan, I'm the chair of this committee. There aren't any members of the public. For those of you who are here, there are no scheduled file drills tonight, so if the fire alarms do go off, please treat that accordingly and follow the usual procedures. This meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. Please note there are no comments function. As part of this webcasting, the Council is the data controller and will retain the data collected during this webcast. This will be done in accordance with the Council's published retention policy. Councillors are reminded to take note of what is displayed on the screens in the room, as this shows what is being recorded on webcast. Cameras are currently set to capture you in seated positions, as I'm sure you're aware. And as a reminder, once you finish speaking, please turn off your green button. Otherwise, you will stop the next speaker from being displayed on the camera. Right, moving on to the agenda. Apologies for absence. Have we received any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair, we received for Councillor Burke.
Thank you very much. Item 2 on the agenda, disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest councillors wish to declare? None. Wonderful. Item 3, the minutes. Does the committee approve the minutes of the meeting of the Governance Committee held on the 9th of September 2025? Please note you can only challenge the accuracy of the minutes. Nope, there are no amendments, so do we take them as approved? Thank you very much. There aren't any public question time, so we'll shoot through item 4, the public question time, on to item 5, first bit of the substantial agenda, community governance review, timeline and terms of reference. This is on page 9 of the agenda, and I'm going to ask Chris Bedlow, sitting next to me, the Democracy and Data Manager, to present the items. So if you can all listen to Chris. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. If members are happy, I wasn't going to take you through the report or repeat the introductory presentation that I gave you at the last meeting. So the purpose of the report is to seek approval for the terms of reference and the timetable for Crawley CGR, which is the main focus of exploring the creation of a new town council to be called Crawley Town Council on the same footprint as existing CGR. Agreeing the terms of reference and the timetable kicks off the CGR. The terms of reference are important as it identifies exactly the scope and the timings of the review and commits the council to following all the procedures contained within it, and also identifies the key factors that will be considered. Section 7 of the terms of reference sets out the scope. Section 8 sets out the detail of the consultation which we're proposing to undertake. Section 9 is the timetable, which is very similar to the version that I presented at the last meeting in the presentation. That being said, I wasn't going to say anything else, just happy to take any questions, Chair. That's okay?
Yeah, okay, thank you, Chris, for that. This is sort of, for us on this committee, this is an unusual procedure, so if I was going to allow councillors to ask multiple questions if things come up during the question time, so feel free to come in again if you wish to, but otherwise, does anybody have any questions? Okay, I've got Councillor Barrett and Councillor Quote. I'll start with Councillor Barrett and then carry on from there, but if you want to indicate in the meantime, I'll try and note you down. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you. We've just got several questions to make sure that residents don't feel excluded from the consultation. So I wondered whether there'll be an easy read version of it for residents who might be neurodivergent, or whether consideration's been given to people who don't have English as a first language. Are there translation services available? And then there'll also be a large number of residents who might not be online or maybe have limited mobility. So if the consultation is only accessible through a digital format or through residents coming along to the council to participate, how can we make sure that they're not excluded as well? Thank you.
If I take the last part first, we can post them out if people request. In terms of the translation, it's the council policy, so we'll follow whatever the current council procedures are in terms of any communications the council does. So if we do it through different translation services, we'll have that facility. It's the consultation, the first stage anyway, is on an online one, but we'll do a paper version. So I think the council's website does some sort of translation, but I don't want to say that. It's based on the standard consultation approach we use for online versions. And in terms of the consultation itself, it is quite plain English in terms of what it contains. And also the information that we're sending out has been checked by our comms teams to make it as clear as possible. And as someone with a bit of with a dyslexia disability that's reading, I do try to make sure things are easy read because it affects me as well. So we were trying our best. So hopefully it's as plain as we can be in that respect.
Okay, sorry, Councillor Quay.
Thank you, Chairman. A couple of questions. Paragraph 5.2 in page 10 of the papers, and it's sort of partially answered later on in the report, mentions whether residents wish to retain some form of warding, which... Well, I do in my papers, Chairman. It says 5.2 on page 10 of the governance papers.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at terms of reference.
Okay, right. Thank you. I'll continue. Okay. So in that paragraph, which I've referenced twice now, it says whether residents wish to retain some form of warding. Now, this is, I like to think I'm quite experienced in local government, but town and parish council, I don't have a huge amount of experience of. And it does say that larger councils would tend to have a warding pattern, but is it therefore feasible actually that we could not have a warding pattern, and how would that work? Are you saying you just let, like, I don't know, 15 or 20 councillors just to the town council to represent the entire town? Is that how it could potentially work?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, there is that flexibility in that respect. It is depending on what comes out of the review. So yes, some town councils and some smaller councils don't have warding, but there is the option too. So yes, you could have a town council or a parish council of 20, 30,000 people without any warding or any indication, any separation. They just cover the whole of the parish. But we put the larger is there tends to be wards to help residents to understand who is representing them within the wider parish. So you can either way. That is part of the rule. We have to actually clearly indicate that. Do people want wards or not? So we have to ask it.
Thanks. That's fine. So I'll just do another quick question, if I may. Elsewhere in the report, it references that the timetable is tight, and I appreciate it's legally sort of set from once the review is called for. But it also says, and I can't see where it is now, that actually the leaflets have already been printed pretty much for the consultation. So in which case, why aren't we seeing them tonight?
They're at if I say they're at the printers, I can, if you bear with me, and maybe I may be able to find one or version to show, but I don't have that with me because they're still literally at the printers with all the because of the time, because of getting them out, subject to you agreeing it, of course. Because of how pushed it is, we've had to get because we're going to do an all borough drop. That sort of sizing means we've had to produce in advance.
I'll just thank you for your answer and say perhaps that's not the first time that assumptions are being made about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coe. Councillor Irvine, and I've got Councillor Lanza after.
No, thank you, Chair. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's going to be two consultations. There's going to be one starting in October, and then there's going to be a further one starting in February. At any point, especially in the second consultation, will residents be given any indication as to how much the precept might be? Because I think it's very difficult for people to form an opinion if they don't know how much the cost might be.
Just to confirm, you are correct in terms of there's two consultations we're required to in law to have. The first consultation is to say, is there an interest in it? And the second firms up based on what they've said in the first one. In terms of precept, there may be in the second set of consultations some different options in terms of if you if you're wanting the parish council or parish councils or town council to have certain facilities, the precept would be at this level. So because we're starting from afresh, it's what facilities go to the town council will directly impact upon what precept there is, and some facilities obviously will earn. If I use community centres, for example, the income from that for a town council would directly benefit the town council. The precept may change. So depending on how large or how small the town council or parish councils, depending on what is done, will impact. So yes, we will hopefully include some examples in the second consultation saying if you want this or not and what's included within that. But it would be in the second stage based on the views of the residents and what they're wanting, if at all, in terms of the functions within the councils.
Councillor Irvine.
I just want to come back very briefly, Chair. I just want to say that from my point of view, I hope it'll be more than hopefully. I mean, I hope it'll be baked in that there will be some indication as to how much people might be paying for this.
There should be some examples of these are sort of here are the different options and the indicative costs, but the cost will, the precept like council tax yearly will change, so it will give probably an indicative as close as it can be at that point.
Councillor Lanza, and then I've got Councillor Jones indicating nobody else is currently indicating they wish to speak. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. On the council tax precept, I do accept it's extremely difficult to estimate. I mean, what strikes me about this is that if you've got a service that has a net cost or a service that has a net income, if the town council takes it on legitimately, as it can under the existing legislation, then that's a charge on an income that is no longer won't be applying to the unitary authority. I mean, clearly, the charge and the income will still be present in the system, but just at a different level. But nevertheless, I think some worked examples would be useful for residents of Crawley to see, not least, of course, because there's no capping on the town council precept, unlike the unitary authority and hopefully the mayoral authority as well. So like Councillor Crowe, I wanted to refer to paragraph 5.2 on page 10, it states that the review will invite any comments from residents regarding alternative options for local decision making, for example, more than one parish. I'm using the word parish interchangeably with town as the report does. But what I want to ask is, given comments made at the OSC, Overview and Scrutiny Commission, and at full council, and possibly at Cabinet, and I wasn't there and I haven't watched it all yet, so I can't comment, but given comments probably made at Cabinet and definitely made at the Overview and Scrutiny Commission of full council regarding the council's political leadership being in favour of a single town council, what prospect exists of the council being perceived to be able to change its mind given the preference already strongly expressed by the political administration? So it's one thing under these proposals to invite comments for alternative propositions. It's another to convince the public that you're actually open to alternative suggestions given the strength of the opinion you've expressed already in various forums.
I think I'm going to say that I don't think that's a fair question for the officer to answer.
I'm not asking the officer.
No, you ask. I'm just making it clear. I'm not expecting Chris to answer it. And we shall move on because it's a political question that anybody can answer, but I don't think it's fair for an officer to answer that question. So the next person I've got to speak is Councillor Jones.
It's probably an appropriate question for me, I'd say, Chair. I mean, I'd like to offer Councillor Irvine and other councillors some reassurance on the precept, I hope. I mean, the whole thinking behind setting up a town council for Crawley is so, you know, it's not being set up to fail, and there's going to be a significant element of income generation that doesn't require massive precepts to operate, because that wouldn't be what we want to start out with. But I mean, I think, like with a lot of these things, we can talk about creating something, but ultimately, if we're creating a new council with new councillors that have not been elected yet, we don't know who they will be. Ultimately, we have to give them some ability to make their own decisions, and we can't bind their decisions any more than our predecessors 20 years ago could stop what we do now. But I think generally there would have been an expectation that councillors would exercise the sort of care and prudence that I like to think that we currently do and have done over the years. In terms of, I mean, the other thing, of course, to state, which is if this isn't stating obvious, is there's always the checks and balances. Any councillor that wants to be profligate with public money, I suggest won't be a councillor for very long. In terms of the other thing to be reassuring on is that traditionally the parish share of any overall council tax precept is vanishingly small. That's the truth of it. I mean, it's been mentioned that it's the only level of council that doesn't have a cap, but that's one of the reasons is even if you've had parish councils that have increased their share of the precept by very much, it tends to work out as pennies over a year, to the point that people don't tend to it doesn't tend to get picked up by the residents, because it's not the level of local government that actually creates the largest amount of expense for them when they're paying their council tax. If I can try and reassure Councillor Lanza, I clearly haven't succeeded yet. I mean, but in terms of I'll keep trying, as Councillor Crowe suggested. You never know. He's a fair-minded man. It might work one day. But in terms of what we actually go for in the end, we don't have a fixed plan just yet. I'd say through you, Chair, to Councillor Lanza. The corporate plan is us just being upfront and honest, which is we've indicated our preference at the moment is that we think a single town council would work best for the borough. But saying that, we are entering this consultation with an open mind. We're going to listen to the public views. And if the public have any other suggestions, then we will listen to them. But they will have to offer them. You know, I think it would be perhaps misleading to suggest there's a groundswell of popular support for some alternative sort of redrawing, or there's a parish out there that's just crying out to be created. But saying that, I don't know yet, Bob. Let's see what the public have to say, and that's why we have a community governance review with the timetable that has, and with the steps that we've put in place. And the other thing I'd just say about the leaflet is it's a fair leaflet that just sets out on a very technical level and sort of apolitical level what has to be done in order to get us to the next stage. Thank you, Chair.
I'm going to come to Councillor Crawley first, because he had indicated before you, Councillor Lanza.
It's just a further question, Chairman, before I've got some comments further down the line, but just a further question. On page 13, under the terms of reference, just wanted a bit of clarity under paragraph 2.1, the final bullet point. These are the reasons why a community governance review can sort of take place. And this bullet point says grouping parishes under a common town/parish council, or degrouping parishes. Just a bit of clarity on what that means. Is grouping and degrouping mean merging or demerging effectively, rather than having a sort of a group of smaller parish councils sitting under some sort of larger parish council?
The grouping term means when relating to small parishes where they have sort of one administration, sort of one parish clerk that's managing, because you can have a parish. There are some parishes in Yorkshire, I think, which is only like 50, 60, is like a little village, and they're grouped together, a few of them together, so they're run administratively by one parish, one sort of clerk or administrative body, but they are still separate parishes themselves. It's so you can merge them and demerge in that respect. So it's not decoupling bigger ones, if that makes sense.
So thank you, Chairman. Just for you, so just to clarify, it would tend to relate more to very small urban villages and hamlets, perhaps, that would form part of a larger rural area, rather than an urban area like Crawley.
Indeed, yeah. Hamlets is probably the best description of some of them.
Did you want to carry on, Councillor Crowe? You'd indicated you had some general comments.
If we're finished with the questions, Chairman.
I'm guessing that no one else has questions unless Councillor Lanza has some more technical questions which he failed to ask the first time.
Oh, right.
Well, I don't mind. I mean, if one of you can speak.
Thank you, Chair. I just have I understood correctly that we might get to see the PDF of the before it comes through, before it hits the
We could probably
letterboxes
share it
as
after the
members
meeting.
of the governance committee. Can I have that reassurance?
So,
Yeah,
sorry, Councillor, can you take your...
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
I will. I would need to find it, but we should be able to share it around before it comes live. But I just don't have it with me at the moment because the proper proof, if that makes sense.
Right. Councillor Lanza, did you want anything else, or are you done? Sorry.
I might in a minute, but not right now. I'm just checking something.
Okay, Councillor Crawley then. Otherwise, everybody's finished.
Okay, if we're talking more general comments,
You can,
Chairman,
you can.
Let's get stuck in. Well, firstly, the timetable somewhat writes itself in that we are compelled to, once the decision has been made by the full council to launch the review, we have to sort of crack on with it. I suppose we don't have to do it immediately, but I'm told it has to be done within 6 months or something like that.
It's principally it should be 12 months, and once it's been agreed that it happens, so it was agreed to full council. Yeah. So once it's so the 12 months ends once the draft recommendations, which will be going to council, is made public. If that makes so. Once council has agreed to set it up, which didn't after the notice motion, there's 12 months until the final report is made public. In that respect,
Which is currently targeted towards the July 26 meeting, as you can see, which is roughly a year after the notice of motion passed at the July 25 meeting.
Okay, so thank you for that explanation. So, in some ways, we're compelled, quite honestly, but Councillor Jones mentioned earlier about there not being any groundswell of support for any sort of different parishes, and that's right. So far, nobody has come to me with anything, but it also belies the sort of the more general point that no one has ever come to me at all ever saying that we need a town council. I appreciate things have changed somewhat with local government reorganisation, but there's not a grounds, the people, let's be frank, the people that called for this review was this council, was the ruling Labour group of this council. So it has not come directly from the community. Nevertheless, this is a process that it has been passed by council, and we do now have to follow. There's a couple of paragraphs here that there's one or two in particular that I take issue with, and bear with me. I'm just going to get there. Yes, it's paragraph 3.3 on page 14, and I'm just going to read it out. And it says, with a new unitary council that Crawley will be part of, decisions will need to be made to reflect the wider area it serves. Crawley will no longer have its own voice, representation, or ability to shape future services or facilities. Now, I've read the local government white paper, and it is very clear that the government recognises that when we have a new unitary authority, it is going to be larger. Quite how large, we don't know yet. It's going to be considerably larger than the existing district and borough councils, and therefore there will be a change in terms of local representation. And so the white paper specifically talks about neighbourhood, doesn't say form, it says neighbourhood arrangements, neighbourhood committees, area committees, and that will be a part of whatever new local authority we become. So that will exist. It does also actually mention town and parish councils within that concept, in terms of town and parish councils could be contributors to those local area committees, but that they will be led by the councillors who are elected to the new unitary authorities. And the idea that Crawley is not going to be represented or have its own voice is just plain wrong. There will, we don't know how many yet, but there will be councillors elected to the new authority, and their role will be to represent their constituents, the town, and indeed, of course, the entire unitary authority as well. So that, for me, that paragraph is badly worded. I think what it's seeking to sort of to say is sort of say a unique voice specifically around just Crawley, and that would be fair enough in that it would not have to consider, if you like, the wider area. But to say that Crawley is not going to be represented or have any ability to shape future services or facilities, that's just plain wrong.
Councillor Jones, I've seen you've indicated.
Yeah,
and then
I think
Councillor
I
Lanza.
should
I mean,
respond to it, Chair. to
yeah, I mean,
say-
what I would be keen for is obviously we have a specific recommendation in this report, and you know, we do want to get to that. We want to maybe focus on that rather than it's not necessarily nitpicking, but taking broader thrusts at whether we think a community governance review is actually what you want to happen or not. I would like us to focus on the actual outputs of this report if we can, rather than talk about the general merits or not, which we did discuss at full council of a community governance review. But anyway, Councillor Jones.
Well, thank you. I will, in that case, take your guidance, Chair, and I must say I support the terms of reference and the timetable as it's set out. But I mean, in terms of talking about Crawley no longer having its own unique voice, I mean, I'm sorry Councillor Crowe takes issue with it. I think it's fair comment. I mean, there will be a council area that covers more than Crawley, and that's the long and the short of it. And there's no guarantee that that new unitary would make arrangements for Crawley as a specific area. And you know what might be included in the area that Crawley's included in could include a larger area. Could be in with East Grinstead. We could be in with any sort of part of the surrounding countryside as well. I mean, the other thing as well is when we've had arrangements like this, I seem to recall West Sussex County Council got rid of the county local committees. So, you know, we might want to have something which is institutionally a unique voice, and this would be the only thing that would, at the moment, that would be within our control to create. Thank you.
Okay, I've got Councillor Lanza and Councillor Irvine, but I will say again, if people aren't making substantial changes to the recommendation of the report, I will draw the discussion to a close and move to a vote on it. Councillor Lanza.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a comment on the precept point, because I think Councillor Jones might have minimised it a little too much. I'll just give you an example of a significant town council, which is Weston in Somerset, which for 2024-25 charged £118 for a band D. So it is material. It's a material amount. And I think, you know, it's a substantial area like we are in population terms. And incidentally, that was an increase of 6.4% compared to the capping limit that exists for us of 4.99 at a county level. And, oh, by the way, it's Labour run. But anyway, thank you. Right, Councillor Irvine, and then nobody else has indicated. I'm not going to take any more speakers unless Councillor Irvine radically suggests a change to the terms of reference, and we will move to a vote.
Rest assured, Chair, I'm not going to talk about the merits or the demerits of this. But I'm curious, on paragraph 3.5 of the appendix, it states that government guidance states it's good practice to conduct a full CGR at least once every 10 or 15 years. So does that mean that if the town council comes into being 10 or 15 years later, we will have a CGR? And if so, what would be the organisation that would carry that out?
It's the unitary, but it would be more than likely it'd be the whole unitary's CGR to look at all the parishes across the whole new borough or new unitary. So it's to make sure that certainly where there are smaller parishes, that the like we were talking about hamlets and decoupling, it's to making sure they all work in that respect. So yeah, there should be a future CGR, and it should happen every 10 to 15 years, is based on good guidance.
Okay, I've got no more speakers, and I'm not going to take any. So we will we will move on to a vote on the item. So I move the recommendations as set out in the report. I don't have a vice chair, so can I ask for a seconder? Ideally from the opposition group. Are you three listening to that? Sorry, we don't have the vice chair here. Are one of you three willing to second the report or not? It's entirely up to you. No? Okay. In which case, can I take a seconder? Councillor Jones is the formal seconder. All those for the recommendation, if you'd like to indicate now. All those against? And those abstaining? Okay, that is carried by 8-3. Thank you very much. That's the end of the item. Sorry, 8-0. Sorry, 8-0. With 3 abstentions, sorry. No, it's quite right. You should be accurate on it. Sorry. Right, moving on to item 6 of the agenda. We'll now, it's going to read Chris again, to present the item which starts on page 23 of the reports pack.
Thank you, Chair. So this is to propose changes related to the licensing functions. The first relates to some food safety, which are put before you following external audit that has suggested some changes to how food safety is considered and changed and how they should be put before members. And the second relates to the speaking rights at the licensing committee with regards to the trade. The proposed changes come from the chair in discussion with officers. Is trying to make it clearer for the main trade bodies at their speaking rights, because there's been some confusion which happens prior to the meetings with the chair and officers. So the proposal is to make it clearer for them based on what we used at the last meeting. But what the key factor is not trying to reduce the chair's discretion on individual speaking rights. It's just trying to make it easier and in advance for the trade to exactly know what the bodies will have, so they can understand. We know who's speaking on, and they know how to speak in that respect. Happy to take any points.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. I'll now open this item up for debate. Please indicate your wish to speak by raising your hand. I've got Councillor Lanza, and that is it at the moment. Councillor Lanza.
Yeah, a few points. First of all, a question. When we're looking at these proposed changes, where does the leader's scheme of delegation sit with respect to this kind of change? It's not something I'm seeing discussed anywhere. Maybe it's not relevant, but I kind of like to know. And when we think about the licensing committee and the hackney carriage and private hire trades, so which of these trades is really speaking at the licensing committee? Is it hackney carriage or private hire, or is it both? And I do wonder about there is a kind of almost competition, or if you prefer rivalry between hackney carriage and private hire, which often kind of displays itself with people suggesting that the one trade isn't playing ball or the other trade isn't playing ball in terms of obeying the rules. And it does strike me that this kind of approach, if you want to bring that kind of competitive rivalry into a public arena and display it in a really forceful manner, then these constitutional amendments are ideal for that.
Does either of you two want to answer that, Chris?
All I can say is the idea behind them has come from discussion with the chair. There are a number. I think that there are, for the last few meetings, there have been 3 different bodies speaking, and it's trying to help them to explain the process. That if they're wanting to speak, they speak to the chair in advance, but it's trying to make sure that it's clear on how they address the committee. It's not trying to stop individuals from attending in that respect. In terms of competitive, I don't think I can talk on that.
Just quickly, the leader scheme of delegation question.
It's a completely separate function because it's the regulatory side, so it should be kept away in that respect.
Yeah, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, in the interests of, I asked this question in the interests of kind of equity. The licensing committee has other functions which impact people potentially, which impact organisations potentially. Are there any other people or organisations where the licensing committee has the capacity, as it were, to influence outcomes for these individuals or organisations? has consideration been given to any others, therefore, that should be given speaking rights at the licensing committee?
There aren't many other noticeable bodies. There are a number of things like street trading, sex establishments, and other ones like that. But there's no real bodies behind those, which are under the committee, and some of the food safety stuff, which is part of the other one. But we've tried to keep the chair's discretion quite clear in this change, so that is the ability for the chair to give that time or not to other bodies, should they're using street trading, for an example, if there's a body. So we want to try to keep the chair's discretion there as much as possible, rather than planning where it's very, very prescriptive. But we just, on the trade aspect, there was been some confusion over the last year, so based on the communication, that was the approach suggested by the chair.
Anything about the council?
Technical question on. Thank you for that answer. Just so these other bodies, would the kind of 5-minute rule as outlined in the proposed change apply equally with them, or is it more?
It'd be more open. It'd be down to the chair's discussion on that. We're only simply talking about the bodies for the tax season, but making the point there is chair's discretion for any other thing, such as street trading, etc.
I can't see any further questions on this, so thank you for the report, Chris. I now move that we recommend the full council that the change set out in the report be approved. Again, can I have a seconder, ideally from the opposition group? Councillor Land's asked lots of questions, so it seems he gets to win the second vote. All those for the recommendations? Anybody against? Anybody abstaining? No, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Unanimously approved. Moving on to item 7 on the agenda, it's change to the constitution in relation to the audit committee, which starts on page 29 of the agenda deck. And again, I'll ask Chris Pedlow, Democracy and Data Manager, to present the item. Chris.
Thank you, Chair. So the final set of constitutional changes relate to the audit committee to reflect new requirements of the global internal audit standards and the recent guidance provided by CIFA. And that's what I want to say on it.
Sorry, anybody wanting to speak on this? Nope. Again, I'm going to ask all committee members have had the opportunity to speak. I move that we recommend the full council that the changes set out in the report be approved. May I ask for a seconder? Anyone who is? Councillor Crowe, thank you very much. All those for the recommendation? All those against? Any abstentions? No, that is unanimously carried. They'll move forward. So, the final substantial item on the agenda is the update on analysis of governance good practice and areas for improvement following the corporate peer transaction plan. And that's on page 33 of the agenda pack. And we're going to ask Suraj Chowdhury, the Head of Governance, People and Performance, to present this item. Over to you, Suraj.
Thank you, Chair. So this is following up from the reports that went to Overview and Scrutiny and Cabinet back in July about the Council's Local Government Association Peer Challenge Review. So that took place in December last year. So back in July, there was a report which included the Council's position statement and the peer team's final report. So that was quite a detailed report. So members and the public had the opportunity to see what the governance review, what the corporate challenge was all about, and the kind of findings and the action plan that the council had put together in response to it. At that meeting, one of the actions was for the council, and in this case the monitoring officer, myself, to conduct an analysis of the council's governance arrangements and how kind of fit for purpose they were. It had already been completed at that point in July. It had actually been done in February and submitted to the corporate peer team as well. So it had been completed, and I believe at that time there was just a request that the governance committee heard a little bit more about that analysis. So I brought this report forward just to cover that off. So I won't go into the detail of the peer challenge. I think hopefully members are familiar with that concept. And I guess what it's worth mentioning is that there were various recommendations in that corporate peer challenge final report, and the action plan sought to kind of cover those cover those recommendations off. Some had already been completed, as I mentioned, and some were work in progress, and some were in very early stages of starting to look at solutions. What's happened since that peer challenge in December last year, obviously, is local government reorganisation, which has provided a slightly new context to certainly some of the recommendations, just in terms of how practical and realistic they would be to look at in detail in the context of local government reorg. And also quite a bit of time has passed since December last year. We're almost a year on now. So there is a bit of context change as well in terms of how corporate management team are looking to get the most out of those recommendations. So specifically in this report, looking at the governance recommendation, which is 5.1 in your report, which was to review governance arrangements, ensuring they were in line with good practice elsewhere, ensuring clarity, transparency, to enable collective ownership and decision making. So that was the kind of overarching governance recommendation in the final report. So I conducted an analysis looking at the corporate peer team's report itself, looking at its findings and what they'd learnt from their site visit here at the council, and by examining some of our key documents, reviewing internal and external audit opinions, looking at our governance documents, reviewing our code of conduct, kind of complaint data, and that is code of conduct for councillors, the statutory officers, that is myself, the monitoring officer, the Section 151 officer and the chief executive have regular statutory officer meetings at which we kind of regularly review all things governance and where we are in terms of the annual governance statement, and looking at a bit of benchmarking with other councils, which the Corporate Peer Challenge obviously had in their mind. So I won't go through the whole report, but I'll just pull out. Obviously, I've highlighted the internal audit report on decision making and accountability, which provided an audit rating of substantial and commented that there were no areas of improvement identified. The external auditor report from completion report from March 2024, that again found no risks of significant weaknesses in arrangements identified. So again, just an excerpt from that report is in the from that external audit report is featured here. I commented on the code of conduct. And we've got a code of conduct arrangements. We've got a good solid record in terms of handling those complaints as and when they do come in. There are good officer relationships with members and with the independent persons. We've got 2 of those, which creates a good positive governance environment. The constitution was a one that the Corporate Peer Challenge looked at. They noted that it was a good, clear constitution. It was last reviewed in 2020-21, and it was found to be pretty strong on transparency and accountability in decision making, and certainly our colleagues from other councils have commented that we have quite a succinct, focused constitution. And in terms of doing another review of the constitution, that's obviously a significant undertaking which requires focused effort from a number of parties, including the monitoring officer, but members as well. At this point, just with the context of local government reorg, it's not considered to be proportionate to undertake a full constitutional review, but we do review it annually, and where there are little amendments that are needed, which come up because of things that we're noticing in meetings and through trying to drive forward the council's business, then those changes are either made as minor amendments by myself using my monitoring officer powers, or they come via this committee or via full council. So I won't go through the other points in there, but I will flag good process improvements across risk management, corporate complaints, and the annual governance statement, which this committee reviews and approves, as well as the audit committee. And the thing that's probably improved over the last few years is the council's strategic risk register, which is a live document which is reviewed by CMT on a quarterly basis, but more regularly than that. And the audit committee, I think that's worked quite effectively in the last 2 years or so, where they've reviewed the register and they've passed back comments to corporate management team, where they feel that maybe a certain risk on the register should be reviewed, or they have an idea of a score change or a suggestion for a score change. So that's working quite well. And the audit committee, the internal audit on reviewing the strategic risk register gave a finding of a substantial level of assurance. So overall, the opinion of the monitoring officer, so myself, just on doing that analysis, pulling together those opinions from separate sources, my view was that the council's governance arrangements are robust, rigorous and transparent, and that they're currently fit for purpose. I won't go into the detail of the other kind of governance-related actions in the action plan, because they're covered off in other meetings. The policy cabinet, you'll know, has been created, and that's being developed to help the council with its strategic thinking and strategic direction for the future. And the 3-year corporate plan has obviously been through the various governance routes as well, just to map out again a more focused service delivery and corporate project plan between now and local government reorganisation. So I'll probably finish there, Chair. That's all right.
That's very good. Right, thank you for your presentation, Suraj. I'll now open this oven for debate. Please obviously indicate your wish to speak if you do. Councillor Crow.
Oh, yeah. I was pressing the wrong button. My apologies, Chairman. But I'm used to things going wrong, so therefore I assumed that something happened. Firstly, thank you for bringing the report forward. I think it's right that we do have sight of this, and I welcome the findings in here. I agree that a fundamental review of the Constitution it isn't required, but obviously we do need to update as and when, certainly like when legislation changes, etc., etc. But I'm pleased that it was recognised, and it was a few years ago now that we did the review of the consultation and slimmed it down quite a bit, because there is always a tendency for these things to grow and grow. Mr. Chowdhury mentioned transparency. The leader will know I raised this at Cabinet. We're still waiting for the key performance indicators so we can see how the council is performing against its corporate plan. But I believe those will be coming soon. I just want to pick up on something, and obviously if you read the full report, you understand what's happening, but it's perhaps not the best use of language. Under paragraph 6.1 on page 34, the audit report by the Southern Internal Audit Partnership stated that there were no areas of improvement identified during the course of this review. And that's what it says there. Now, I think what it really means to say is there were no areas identified where improvement was needed, for improvement. But where it says there are no areas of improvement, if someone wanted to be mischievous on social media, they could just quote that line and have a little bit of fun. But I wouldn't stoop that low, Chairman. But I do point out that's just perhaps not the best use of language. It doesn't reflect the wider report, certainly.
Yeah.
Thank you for flagging that, Councillor Crowe. Yes, I take that point. I think I myself took a direct quote as well. So it's a quote from the original report. So I probably would be questioned if I altered and corrected the wording as well. Thank you, though.
Well, perhaps we should have questioned them at the time, Mr.
Okay, no one else got anything to say on that? So all committee members have had the opportunity to speak. I move the recommendations as set out in the report. May I ask for a seconder, perhaps? Thank you, Councillor into Ms Khan. Everybody's got a turn this time. All those in favour of the recommendation, if you'd like to vote now. All those against? Any abstentions? No, that was carried unanimously. And I'd just like to say one more thing before the supplemental agenda. This is Suraj's last governance meeting. I'm sure he'll miss him tremendously before he moves on to his new job away from us. Maybe he'll have a more difficult governance committee, I don't know. But either way, I'd just like to record thanks of the governance committee for all your efforts over the last 5-ish years. And for those who can't remember, one of Sarge's first actions as in his role was sorting out the constitutional issue around control of the council due to somebody's point of order at the annual council when we were in the Horth, and that really did require quite some legal interpretation. So I think it's got easier since then. So thank you very much, Gerard, for all your efforts. And otherwise, we don't have any supplemental agenda. So I declare the meeting closed at 8:20. Thank you very much. The next meeting's scheduled for the 11th of November.